Today's episode sponsored by our friends at CGC Sports Illustrated. Hey, trust the experts when it comes to graded magazines. CGC Sports Illustrated is the authority. Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Codename New 2 the Gen X for Gen X channel. I'm your presenter, Shabu Are You. Well, this will be our first full video since Hurricane Milton. And before I dive into what our graded magazine showcase today, I wanted to say thank you to all of those that reached out to me, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, here on YouTube. I just want to say thank you. We were very lucky, and I kind of wanted to show as shit was going bad with the floodwaters coming up, what a collector would do. Like, after you do all the important stuff of putting up the shutters, your generator, all the things that will help you sustain yourself going forward in the aftermath. Then at the very end, I kind of shifted my attention to the retro consoles, the graded comic books, the action figures and stuff, and how, it was a mad dash to pull things out of the wire and put them high up on the shelf. But, we were lucky. There were quite a few families in few towns over, that didn't fare well. Ironically, it wasn't the actual hurricane, it was the storms before the hurricane that did the most damage for us on the east coast of Florida. But we were lucky. I'm very grateful for that. So again, we're going to do our graded magazine unboxing episode. Now, this has been a new segment we've been featuring the last few years, thanks to our collaboration with our good friends at CGC Sports Illustrated. That's right. Even someone like me, who is pretty knowledgeable, always turns to the experts when it's something. Like I said, magazines and comic books, you may think they're the same thing, but it's a completely different animal. So why not trust the experts with CGC Sports Illustrated? If you're looking to join this exciting new collectibles, which I highly recommend, not just because it's fun, but there's actually, and I hate to admit this, but there's a lot of good investment potential with graded magazines. Like, where comic books have it's a buyer's market. The high prices as far as selling have kind of fallen since 2021. It's a good time to buy comics, and especially key issues and significant issues, which, when we do our PGX unboxing, I'll definitely show you how we got some 1 to 100 ASM Amazing Spider-Man. So those 1960s, I've been kind of focusing on that. Now, over on the magazine sides, we've looked at the second year of Playboy, the 1955. I think that's the year two. It's kind of starting to pick up. Year one, all of those issues have just skyrocketed in value. But now it's year number two that's starting to be attractive, the most earning potential as far as that. Why? Well, that's in January we had the first of Betty Page, and then later on we'll have the second appearance of Marilyn Monroe. Like, everybody focuses on that first issue, that first appearance of Marilyn Monroe, but the second one is starting to pick up and gain a lot of steam. So I highly recommend checking in on that issue as well. So let's dive in and see, because there's a lot of the history that you learn when you go through this. It's such a time capsule. It's such a different era. And that's what makes this so intriguing and so fascinating. It's not just, the adolescent. All right. You'll see how entertainment was so print oriented. Like, you have to bring your A game, whether it be stories or anything that's in there, because this is an era without cell phones, without computers, without anything. So people were finding entertainment picking these magazines up, and that's what makes it so appealing is that, you know, these little short stories, you know, the whole joke, oh yeah, I read it for the articles. It is actually true in this era that the stories and all the articles have to be like, you know, at an A level quality in order for it to sustain, because once the novelty of pictorials is here and gone, and once that wears off, you know, what's the substance? So you could see Hefner kind of telling his publisher and, like, you know, all the people, like, let's get the best, let's get the best. And it kind of shows, especially in this era. So that's what makes it, like, in a historical standpoint, makes it kind of interesting to revisit these and look at it from a 2024, looking back at that era. So let's dive in with our first one. All right, so again, this is year 2, you know, and that's why I'm kind of targeting this 1955. Our first issue comes from June of 1955, and this one is really, really interesting. Now, as you see, the grade is NG, which means non-grade. There was some issue with the centerfold, actually, and here's the thing. Usually when things are not complete or there's something wrong, there's a purple label that comes. This got a blue complete label, but just a non-grade. And what's interesting is how CGC Sports Illustrated did such a great job with the clean and press. I mean, this thing is absolutely, and that's what was kind of like weird when I submitted it. I thought initially I would be getting an 8 because it's that good. And, you know, I mean, actually I thought it was going to be like 7, but once CGC Sports Illustrated got his hands on it and did the cleaning and the pressing, this thing will escalate to about 8. And if it wasn't for that one defect, that I think I would have. And that's what makes this kind of like a little bit tough pill to swallow. But on the second hand, it is something from 1955, and it looks and presents beautifully. This still has a significant value associated with it. It may not be a 9.8, whatever, but at the same time, it is this particular issue would never, you know, be destroyed, or it saves this issue. And what's interesting is this is a Donna Kim cover, and she really didn't do much as far as like movies and anything else. She just, you know, modeled for this cover, and that's about it. But the artwork in it is absolutely fascinating. I think, you know, it's like a photo painting type of artwork. I don't know how to describe that, but it has the bunny looking on. It's kind of like a perv and like watching as the lady adjusts her stockings. I think that's actually kind of compelling. And it's just like the colors, the color of her shoes, dress, you know, the nylons itself. Everything is just so well done on this cover piece. It's what captivated me to pick this up. And I think, like, you know, right there, that's significance. Now, here's where things get fun. So the pictorial is Eve Myers. Now, does that sound familiar? It should, because she is the wife of Russ Myers. Now, Russ Myers was known for his B movies. Let's be honest, a little bit of his skin, you know, type of stuff. You know, he focused in on being breasted individuals, so to speak. But he was known for that. And it wasn't like disgusting. It was kind of like that was just his niche. Well, here's the thing about Eve Myers. Now, she died in what I discovered was the most horrific plane crash that has occurred in aviation history. Now, let me look at how to pronounce this correctly. So the Tenerife, T-E-N-R-I-F-E, Tenerife airplane disaster that occurred in 1977. 583 lives were lost. And basically what happened was, let's see, do I have my, all right, hold on a second. Just to illustrate, so Eve Myers' plane was on the runway. taking off. And at the same time, another plane, and this is a small island off of Spain. So the plane was coming in and this plane was taking off. Are you getting the picture? Yeah, that's what happened. So as this guy is taking off, he collides with this person. I don't know what mission the air control tower was doing. I was reading accounts of it. They were trying to tell the pilot to stop, but the message didn't go through because I guess the radio or something like that, and he just freaking plowed into this the other plane. Now, Eve Myers was in Pan Am Flight 1736. What makes this even more spooky and bizarre is that in 1970, the same exact plane was involved in the first hijack of a 747. So shit is weird with this one. And that's what makes this issue so compelling. It's like this whole story. I had no idea, and I'm a pretty good history buff myself. I mean, that's why I'm into this, is that I thought there were several other aviation, is that like the Concorde one that happened in Europe, but this one claimed the most lives, and it is by far, up until, it is by far the worst aviation disaster in the history of flight. So that occurred in 1977. Great year for me, but I just think that, man, I didn't know about so many things happened in 1977, like Elvis died, this plane crash, so many things. The centennial, our country's, 200th anniversary was celebrated in 1976, and then, carried on into 77. But again, this issue is definitely a good pickup. I think that it is just beautifully done, the cover, and yeah, I think this is a win. Yeah, it's a bummer, it's a non-grade, but at the same time, it's a win because how well it's preserved. So, there's some historical aspect into graded magazines. It's not going to always be a 9.8, so it's not like in comics. So it is still a win, but it's just kind of, notched a few steps down. But anyway, that's June 1955. Wow. All right. So our next one comes to us November of 1955, and we have Barbara Cameron is your centerfold and cover model. She didn't really do much, but the person, one of the pictorials, is Gina Lollobrigida. Gina Lollobrigida is probably, it may not ring a bell, but she was regarded as one of the most beautiful women of the world at that time. You got to remember, this is the era of Marilyn Monroe, Sophia Loren, Liz Taylor, Audrey Hepburn. So many famous, iconic, leading ladies at this time. She was regarded, like Sophia Loren would have been probably the number one. She's probably regarded as number two as far as Italian actresses, models, so to speak. But what's interesting is as her career kind of dwindled, she transitioned into becoming a photojournalism journalist. And what was interesting is she was able to secure the first interview with Fidel Castro. Crazy. She has gotten so many awards for humanitarian efforts, for journalist efforts. This was a person that was multi-talented, educated, learned. Wasn't just a pretty face. There was also a mind behind it. So I think this is very well. And I'll put up some pictures of Gina. And yeah, it's just amazing. And it's just kind of sad how time has kind of moved on and forgotten about her achievements and her status. But that's why, it's kind of fun doing these, is because we're bringing out old, it's a celebration of all these women that attributed so much and pioneered during a time when, their voices weren't prominently heard. They had to break through some very difficult barriers and were able to kind of pave the way for the ladies of today. So I know that's kind of weird saying that when I'm holding this, but at the same time, if you think about it, you can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs, right? So it's all in the perception. It's like going and going to a museum and looking at an art picture. Like, if you perceive it in a certain way, then it is. If you don't, then, proceed in a different light, then there you go. So I don't see these as negative. I think these are historical. This is Americana. This is popular, this is what American pop culture, the whole aspect of entertainment again. And like I said, what's interesting is the stories in this issue too. They're pretty, really good, well written. I was able to look at, read a few of those stories, and they're captivating, they're entertaining. So again, I'm just amazed at how much was put into these publications and how like people just focus in on the pictorial aspect of it. And that's if you do that, you're missing out on half of what this stuff is all about. So yeah, in the back again, just some great artwork too. So it's a combination of literature, art. I mean, it's just amazing how this 1955 year was where Playboy was kind of like really, really turning into something. That first year was probably like a novelty, but this is where they're starting to lay foundations for what, endure until to this present day. So that's why these issues are starting to pick up. And I think I'm so happy that I focused in on this year in particular, 1955. As my regulars can attest, we always save the best for last. And here we go. So everyone knows, like I said, about that iconic first issue featuring Marilyn Monroe. I think Marilyn Monroe is great. The interesting about Marilyn Monroe is she had a very high IQ. Some people, like, it's stated that was just a few points below Albert Einstein, believe it or not. And it's kind of sad how she was just exploited, but at the same time, like, what I said earlier, like trailblazing, having to endure all of this nonsense just in order to get your name in lights and be recognized. But it's a tragedy. It really is. But anyway, this is from September 1955, and this is the second appearance of her in Playboy. If you see, it's right there. There she is. So this one is actually starting to pick up traction too for collectors. It is one of those, and I'm just happy this got the high grade of a 5.5. And again, kudos to CGC Sports Illustrated. You have an off-white cover, a white cover, made to look like newspaper, and he did an amazing job with the edges and everything. The back looks great. I mean, that's why you spend a little bit extra money to get the clean and press service from an expert. And if you're interested in this, I highly recommend, don't use a CGC service. Use one of these third parties like CGC Sports. Send it to CGC Sports Illustrated, and you'll get the best possible grade. All of these that I just showed you are the best possible grades these 3 books can get. And I think that this is another one that has a Sammy Davis Jr. article, interview in it too. So you have Marilyn Monroe and Sammy Davis Jr. all in one magazine. That is a freaking win for me, for the highest level. So this one is the one I am the most through the roof with. And even finding raw copies of this, you're talking about like over $100. So I was able to pick this up, not anywhere near that. I think maybe the auction, it was a low buy-in, high reward. That's the best type of investment possible. So yeah, I'm really excited about this. And again, just going back to Marilyn Monroe, you know, I like Marilyn and I like Elvira and Dolly Parton. So there's a three there's a common denominator on three, but each one, if you put that aside and see what they endured, their contributions, I mean, that's what's the most important thing. And I see what they did. Now, again, for Marilyn, it was just like, it's just so tragic. DiMaggio, they were married, and you could tell that DiMaggio, it was the love of his life. And he would always send flowers to her grave until he died, like every year. I mean, he would visit her, and that's just, it's bittersweet when you hear all the stuff that surrounded Marilyn Monroe at that, the mystery. It was just a girl that was just knew that to, I think it was an individual who knew she was trying to capitalize on her 15 minutes, but it wasn't 15 minutes. But she knew she had a short window, and she had to sell out totally and go for it, dive in. And she also took care of her sent money back to her family and stuff like that. So she really had her head on right. It was just all the Hollywood machine kind of really did this poor girl in, and that's the sad thing. But anyway, I always have a special place for Marilyn Monroe because she's such an icon, and that's why I'm glad, along with the Dolly Parton one, that we have this as well in the personal collection. So anyway, that basically does it. Again, thank you, CGC Sports Illustrated. We're going to do a big unboxing with CGC over on his channel in a few weeks. We're going to look at some of, I guess, the recent pickups and just have a big one showcasing all of those, like the Tyra Banks being the first African American in the swimsuit issue, the first African American in Playboy as well. These are historical issues that kind of broke barriers, and those are the ones that are skyrocketing in value. And like I said, magazines is kind of allocated to that collective sport card collectible type of thing. And what makes it so amazing is that the demographic, everybody is into magazines, whether you're into Newsweek, Times, Sports Illustrated, Playboy, National Geographic. Like, I'm actually hunting that National Geographic with the Afghani girl. I'll show you that picture there. I'm looking for this issue because it was just so memorable and it was just so iconic that I think that's a really important one to target. I'm also kind of looking for anything with John F. Kennedy. John F. Kennedy related is also a big one to pick up. But again, this is a fun, I didn't realize it would be this fun because there's a lot of history involved, and I love history. I love American history, pop culture history, sports history, music history, all this stuff. And I know I say things like, oh, I'm not interested in the monetary aspect, which is true, but it goes without saying, these are the most, advantageous realm of collectibles to get into. And if you want to dip your toe in it and pick up, 3 or 4, send it off to CGC Sports Illustrated, have him submit it, and then, it'll be mailed to you within a few months. So it is definitely a fun process because you don't, unlike what I do with comics where I'm in control of everything, I handle everything, I work directly with the grade I'm going, the magazines I'm having to utilize an expert. And it's kind of cool because I don't have to worry about all of the legwork. He's doing it on my behalf, and taking care of all that, and I just have to wait, and in a few months, it's at my door. So the hunting part is the fun part, so I really enjoy that as well. Anyway, once again, thank you for everybody. We're gonna do that some comic stuff coming up, and I know Famous Faces is having a special grand opening. Also, check out our friends at Simple Tricks and Nonsense. They're doing some amazing things. There's a Legion Con coming, and they're working on some great cosplays for that. So if you haven't, go to Simple Tricks and Nonsense. Also check out Sith Crush, which is a fictitious character, and it's just, again, check it out and you'll definitely like it. Anyway, this is Shabu Are You. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your wonderful support during this difficult time of Hurricane Milton. I really do appreciate it. You guys, this isn't a very big channel. We just do this for fun, for other fellow Gen Xers to enjoy. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.